Thank you to everyone who's here live and everyone watching this video later. We are in a session led by two wonderful speakers, and I'm going to actually just turn it over to them so they can introduce themselves. If you need any tech support, you can direct message me in the chat. I'm the volunteer for this session. But without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to the lovely co-presenters, Elif, Balin, and Keenan Arun.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for being here. My name is Elif Balin. I am currently a counselor educator and researcher at San Francisco State University. I'm also the program coordinator of the Career Counseling Master's Program. I have worked with Kenan's organization, the LGBT Asylum Center for Immigrant Protection, since last year. We will tell more about our work and things like that and how we met a little bit later.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kenan Arun or Keenan Arun, and I am the co-executive director for Center for Immigrant Protection. We are the home organization for the LGBT Asylum Project in Parivar Bay area. And we have met Elif at another nonprofit. It's Turkish American Gezi platform. We're both Turkish, so that's basically how we know each other. And I have been with the LGBT Asylum Project since November 2017. I joined as the director of operations, and then we had a steady growth. And I am a previous asylee myself, and that's why volunteering and working for this organization was something vital for me. Nice to see you all. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you, Kenan, for that introduction. We will say just a little bit more. And I want to acknowledge, first of all, let me go back to the title because there's just a little bit change from the schedule. When I originally proposed this program, the program's name was a little bit different. And at that time, the title was more on the transgender, non-binary, intersex folks. But now the program is more inclusive with the new title, like we say more the LGBTQI plus immigrants and asylum seekers. But the program still has a focus on the transgender folks. So I just wanted to say that, and Kenan will talk about that more later. So if you see a little bit of mismatch in the title, there's a slight change. That's why, as the world is changing, evolving, the programs are also changing. So, but the content, the focus is obviously the same. So today, we just also introduced ourselves, but I also want to acknowledge quickly that this presentation is also supported. We have contributions from two other leaders in this field. So Kenan's organization, Center for Immigrant Protection, has another sub-organization called Parivar Bay Area. So they really are led by trans folks, especially from Global South region. And so I just want to acknowledge Angelia Remy, like one of the leaders in this organization, contributed, like she's the co-creator of the program. And then at the same time, like John Tessero is an attorney, also works with Kenan and Center for Immigrant Protection, LGBT Asylum Project. They could not be here with us today, a lot of different world events, family health issues. But John and I did an interview, like a 20-minute interview. So I will be sharing the link with you if you want to see. I certainly used the insights from that interview throughout the presentation. And I will also be sharing with you the full interview, his suggestions from an attorney perspective, working with this population about employment support. You will have access to that. And also insights from Anjali, because we kind of revised the program together a couple of months ago. So we just want to acknowledge that. So our outline today, we start with introductions, then we will talk about like why we are striving for a holistic career development, employment support. We are collaborating, trying to learn from each other. I mean, how is this really important for this community? And then Kenan will talk about what do these communities, nonprofit organizations, structures look like, their history, like how they came together, how they support resettlement, and employment access is a very important part of that and also outcome of that. And then we will share some highlights from the program, which kind of puts together career development, leadership, and advocacy. And then we will have some time for a Q&A. I will not go through each one of these slides. I made them a little bit more informative. Like when you see full slides, they are for you to refer back later. You can always get that information from the resources we provided for you. We will prioritize kind of chat and conversations with Kenan today. So Kenan, let's say a little bit more about like how you and I met under Gezi platform, which is also a nonprofit organization, very culturally diverse. And first really want to briefly highlight before Kenan takes it that again we met at this organization with Kenan, and I was always so inspired by his work, like thanks to social media, always seeing his posts, you know, about the LGBTQ events, things like that. The LGBT Asylum Center, actually, I learned about that first. But Kenan is also a leader, like when it comes to really advocating for this community. He was the one like helping us engage in, like, for example, the SF Pride, and you know, whenever we go to protests, like we also have our LGBT flags and things like that. So and I believe Kenan will also be the Grand Marshal this year, right? Selected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm one of the 5.
Yes, yes, thank you. Congratulations again this
Thank you
year.
so much.
If you are going there, Kenan will be there. So this is kind of how we met. Kenan has a big role in helping me realize how I need to become a stronger ally, like how I need to educate myself better about the needs of this communication. Being an immigrant, I reflected back in my own experiences in my first home country, Turkey. You know, I reflected like how a lot of my LGBTQ friends, they could not come out to me openly. They hesitated. Like I really question myself as an immigrant in this country, you know, what is it that I need to learn more, first as a friend, and then as an ally, as an educator, as a researcher. So I gradually became very interested in understanding the intersectional identities and experiences of this community. And again, the Pride events, as you can see the pictures from here, has a big inspiration. And I wanted to volunteer with this organization. I wanted to use my career counseling expertise as I also educate myself about ways in which I can advocate with this community. So that's about me, how I got engaged. Kenan, do you want to take it from there?
Yeah, thank you so much, by the way. This is a two-way street because I was thinking about it the other day. Yesterday was a little challenging for me because I had a lot of different views and people were little confrontational, but I realized your approach and attitude, like I basically made myself follow that and it helped me a lot. And I was thinking how when there's a conflict happening, how your approach is very inclusive and conclusive at the same time, because you're just like, I'm doing this because of this, and you're not getting defensive. You're very kind. So that taught me a lot as well. So it was a two-way street. I just want to acknowledge that. Originally I am a literature graduate, and my field of study is theater, and I was learning stage makeup, and that basically evolved into nonprofit in a really weird way, and a fascinating way, because it's character development on stage. The makeup that you put on people, you help them build a character for the story, and this is basically helping people. Our work is living their authentic selves. So we're basically helping them regain their personality that they couldn't back in their home countries due to safety reasons. And do you want me to talk about the LGBT Asylum Project now, Elif, or?
Well, maybe just a little bit later. Let me maybe
Yeah,
say a little bit more about why, like the perspectives that we are using from a career development perspective,
of course.
and then we will
Y-
go more deeply into the organization and the
y-
program and things like that. But thank you for sharing your story, the highlights, and I think we will be sharing, right? You will share more about some
Yeah.
profiles of the people, some of the people that you serve, you advocate for, and with. Okay, so that's how we met with Kenan, how we started working together. So why did we carry this organization, this kind of, you know, community partnership model to this conference? I first want to say that there is an urgency in our times. I know that I don't really need to emphasize this much, but let's please do that. In the current social political climate, the rights and the dignity of transgender, gender non-conforming, intersex individuals especially, but in general, LGBTQ individuals, immigrants, right, asylum seekers are under increasing threat. There's a surge in anti-trans legislation, the rollback of asylum protections, heightened immigration enforcement, disproportionately harming people at the intersection of gender diversity, racialized immigration status, and economic precarity, right? All of these things are coming together and threatening the access to decent and meaningful work, which is a form of healing, belonging, and survival for everybody, but especially for this community. And yet, unfortunately, like we face systemic exclusion, this community faces systemic exclusion from safe employment, healthcare, housing, legal support. So all of these issues are under, again, increasing threat. So centering these immigrants in conversations on career development, decent work, and we will talk about what is decent work from an International Labor Organization perspective, and social advocacy. We affirm their right to economic justice, identity expression, and full participation in society. So this work, like unfortunately sometimes in our field, and when you look into the literature, there's evidence to what I say. Unfortunately, this community is not studied enough adequately, and we don't see as much representation in our professional organizations. I rarely saw, maybe 3-4 times, my whole career, 17 years in the United States, presentations that really center this community. But not only that, in these presentations, we usually talk about the theories we already know, right? Approaches and things like that, or things that we can really access and learn from the textbooks, from the academic articles, each other. But there's this community which who are not always the clients, right? Who can access our privileged services. So the society that we're able to serve, we can come to our offices, who can afford our services, like one-on-one services, are very limited. So we also need to think about how we are extending our expertise, how are we using our counseling skills from a social justice perspective and educating ourselves about such marginalized communities, and how we can collaborate in different ways. And even if people are able to come to us one-on-one services, we are able to work with them. Let's remember, we can't do all the work ourselves. There are different dimensions of this work, like the legal cases, like immigration status, work authorization, access, right? Sometimes these things take years. Kenan will talk about it. But there's also educating them about job search, job selection, job search in the United States. But there's also the mental health piece, right? A lot of these people cross the borders with all types of traumas back in the home country. Crossing a border is a lot of like that immigration journey, sometimes very traumatic. So this work is very deep, multi-layered. So we also need to think about what other organizations, what other type of experts are important for me to educate myself about and to collaborate. So what other programs I can refer my clients, my students, the people that I work with, that I advocate for. So this is the reason that we are in this conference. In a way, I'm only facilitating, bringing you together with Kenan and the organizations, their voices, so we can all learn together about these type of organizations that also support career development and employment access. So those are the main goals that we're doing this. And as I was saying a little bit earlier, our current times, like so much is happening around the world, as you can see on these slides, and these are unfortunately perpetuating, right, the immigration flow and people seeking asylums. All types of things are happening right now. And this community, LGBTQI plus immigrants and asylum seekers, and, are especially at the forefront of multiple layers of marginalization. I also want to highlight, when you look into our current times, like in the news, you will just see especially how transgender and non-binary people are facing, unfortunately, the most devastating forms of violence and discrimination. So I just highlighted a couple news in here, and you don't need to say this, why we need to support these individuals and why they are here, but please consider this from a global justice perspective too. Like look at what's happening right now in the Middle East, and how a lot of the people, because Kenan's organization are also advocating people with HIV, like how important it is that a lot of these people are not even able to access basic medication rights right now, and trying to run for safety, right, all around the world. So immigration, asylum seeking is becoming a growing crisis in our current times. So who is this, or who is this community? I'll just highlight a couple more things about this. When we say LGBTQI plus immigrants, asylum seekers, we highlighted the intersecting systemic barriers, legal, linguistic, social, economic, psychological, many navigating post-traumatic transitions. And when we look into this community, work has an essential role. Work is an essential role for everyone. Work is a human right. It's a way of survival for everybody, but especially for this community as they are resettling in a new country. It shapes identity, belonging, stability, community building. And unfortunately, access to decent work is frequently denied to this population. Sometimes they are forced only certain types of work, right, where they may not have their full rights and they may be under multiple types of threats. Some of the biggest challenges that they face: fear of discrimination based on their name, gender expression, immigration status. And these are from my interview from John Tessero, attorney from LGBT Asylum Project. Again, you will have full access to that recording. He also shared with me credential issues such as mismatched documents due to name changes or lack of paperwork. Like, some people flee their country of origin with no diplomas or no reference letters, right? Things like that. Legal misunderstandings around the work permits and protection. Some people don't know they can apply for work authorization. They have certain rights, luckily, especially in a state like California. And precarious employment without benefits, safety, upward mobility. So John was telling me like how actually it's a good thing that we have the gig economy, because a lot of these people, they can come into a new country and they can try these different jobs, you know, that may not require the paperwork and reference letters and things like that, as they are adjusting into a new country and building skills, building networking. So in some ways, precarious employment from that gig economy perspective has some advantages, but at the end of the day, being stuck in such work in the long term comes with a lot of disadvantages. So John was saying, like, many employers don't understand name changes or trans identity, so participants hide their documents or even avoid applying for decent jobs altogether, right? So it's very important to help them understand their rights and work with them holistically. Again, you can hear more about like what John shared with me. You will have access to the slides later, and you can just go and listen more. I also kind of summarize in here. I already talked about some of those things that John shared with us, and why career development professionals, or actually how career development professionals should attend to certain barriers and our roles, and how we can collaborate. So especially setting some realistic expectations and helping people understand their legal protections, and approaching people from like a survivor perspective, strengths-based perspective, like, are some important outcomes that John shared with us. So these are just some of the other highlights. I already talked about some of these things, but I especially want to highlight career professionals must do more than offering job prep. We must acknowledge the lived experience, counter systemic discrimination, create space for identity affirming advocacy. And for this reason, we need to get to know people like Kenan and his organization, and really know, like, think about the ways in which we can collaborate as community partners. So this idea is informed by two things. One is, maybe you already heard about, is social determinants of health. As we know, for people's ultimate health, well-being, quality of life, education, job opportunity, income is one of the most important criteria that helps people reach quality of life. Let's remember that this is decent work. Access to work is a human right issue. And decent work is defined as physically and psychologically safe working environment, adequate compensation, adequate rest and free time, organizational values that corresponds with familiar and social values, and also adequate healthcare. So some of you might be remembering decent work also from the psychology of working framework. So I'm not going into theory in this presentation, but if you want to learn more about it, you can please go to the references and how we talk about decent work with the psychology of working framework, to help people think about work, not just as survival, but also as a means of social connection. Everybody needs to be connected to their world in meaningful ways, and work also as self-determination, which means everybody deserves work that is meaningful, right? That they have a sense of contribution to themselves, but also to the communities, to the world that they live in. So from these perspectives, we talk about the importance of holistic career development, as I just highlighted: survival, security, social connection, self-determination. These are especially important in this community, like social protection, access to healthcare, shelter, equality, protection from discrimination can happen with decent work, dignity, gender affirmation, workplace respect. These are the most important pieces, and safe conditions, avoiding detention and exploitation, because again, these people are navigating, right, these risks, these threats, especially in this current climate. So holistic models go beyond resume building. They consider mental health, cultural identity, social supports, and leadership potential. And for LGBTQI immigrants, holistic models validate intersectional identities and resist erasure in workforce systems. So overall, these are very important pieces of what we highlight in holistic programs for this community. And Julie and I worked on the most recent version of this program. So we, as you can see here, starting from work authorization rights. I have some experience from this because originally a lot of my work was with international students understanding their work authorizations. And now, as I'm shifting to my work with new immigrants, asylum seekers, there are a lot of similarities. Actually, when I was doing a workshop for this community just a couple of weeks ago, I noticed in the whole cohort, there were a couple former international students. They came to this country as an international student, right? Like LGBTQ international students. And then a lot of things changed in their country of origin. They didn't feel safe to go back to their families, and they decided to seek asylum in this country, right? So that sometimes there are multiple boxes of identities these people are navigating. So I won't say more about the program for now. Kenan, let's go to your section so you can talk about Center for Immigrant Protection, like, how you started your work, who you serve, what you want to share with us, some highlights and things like that.
Of course, yeah. Thank you so much. So our umbrella name is Center for Immigrant Protection, and we were founded by two immigration attorneys, Brooke Westling and Okan Sangun. And Brooke Westling is currently our legal director, and Okan Sangun is our co-executive director, the other executive director that I work with. And they basically saw they're both attorneys, and they basically saw the necessity of seeing people fleeing their countries because of who they are, who they love, because of their HIV status. And it was first Nigeria that they realized that they wanted to help, and then it evolved into something bigger. And we currently have a lot of clients from Middle East, from Eastern Europe, from South America. So it covers a lot of places currently. And our combined experience on asylum is 45 years. And we have been, our staff is bilingual, but we have a thorough database of volunteers. So if we need any other needs of like any language assistance, we have an outreach of volunteers that we can contact, and then they can help us with that. So it was founded in November 2015, and LGBT Asylum Project was the first project evolving from Center for Immigrant Protection, and it was only covering asylum. It has been covering asylum. And it was affirmative for such a long time. So affirmative and defensive, I will very simply, give you the comparison. Affirmative ones are people coming here with a visa, like Elif mentioned, international students or touristic visa, and then they apply for asylum, and their asylum application is handled in an asylum office by an officer. The defensive ones, they either don't come here with a visa, they cross the border, like people fleeing South America due to being trans was one of the things, because they do not have any access to anything. They're not acknowledged by their government, so they can't work, they do not have income, they can't show anything, so they can't apply for a visa, and they just flee. And their cases are handled in a court, and they have to defend their asylum application against a district attorney or DHS. So that is the difference. In 2022, we had a collaboration with another nonprofit, Ella para Trans Latinas, and we started prioritizing transgender, gender non-conforming, and intersex defensive cases. And we started doing defensive cases as well. And beginning of this month, May 1st, I mentioned the steady growth. We now do all affirmative and defensive LGBTQ asylum applications. We have increased our caseload. We have hired new legal staff, and we are able to include all of them. And that's where Parivar Bay Area, that's how they stepped into the picture as well. With Angeli, we met in 2020, and we were providing fiscal sponsorship for Parivar Bay Area. And later we realized that we have to be the sister organizations under our umbrella name, Center for Immigrant Protection. And currently we have two projects. It's the legal side, LGBT Asylum Project, and Parivar Bay Area. Parivar Bay Area was originally, it was South Asian, but now it is Global South. And we started doing community events roundtable discussions. And from those, the necessity for cohorts came into being. And that's how I contacted Elif, because we needed help. We did a couple cohorts prior to meeting Elif or having her in our project. But we wanted to include the job security and training people how to write resumes, financial literacy, how to get yourself acquainted with the work environment in a new place that you are settling in. And our long-term goal is to become a resettlement program. Currently, we provide the legal services for asylum, and we provide cohort trainings and community events as well with Parivar Bay area. And for all other needs regarding healthcare, housing, we have referrals. We have a strong network of nonprofits that we're in touch with. And our collaboration differs with different nonprofits. As I mentioned, with Ella para Trans Latinas, they provide social services, and for their legal assistance, we step into the picture. Or there is another foundation called Alwan Foundation. They have a scholarship, Eden's Scholarship. They basically help someone come to United States through their scholarship. And if they want to look into asylum, that's where we step in. So it is not just legal work. It's not just asylum. When somebody is coming over here, we want to be of assistance to that person so that they can resettle in safety with the support that they need, with the knowledge that they need to survive and to basically cherish in their new life. And I will give some impact numbers. In 2024, we served 1,124 LGBTQ immigrants. It's people reaching out to us. This includes consultations, intakes, referrals, and our cases, pending cases and new cases. Currently, we have 320 cases actively that we're working on. Since our inception, we had 131 approvals. And last year, we had 37 community events, and we did 2 leadership cohorts covering 22 TGNCI students. And our approval rate for our asylum applications are 99% right now. We're very proud of that. So these are, we will be having questions at the very end as well, but yeah, this is, oh, I wanted to say, like, I took a note here. With Turkish American Gezi platform, we were the first Turkish nonprofit to attend Pride. We're very proud of that as well. Thank you so much, Elif.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting that, Kenan. Yeah, the importance of these organizations, the community building for immigrants, like me being an immigrant, and through the other nonprofit organization, learning about this and us coming together. These things are really important. I also forgot to highlight earlier. I just remembered that, and I will go back to things that you highlighted. One of the other reasons I did this was also being an academician. Like sometimes my work is so much on a university campus, right? Like I so focused on teaching, so focused on research with certain populations. I also want to just invite all of us to reflect on a little bit of self-criticisms, like where else we could carry our knowledge and expertise and our skills, right? So I think this is also very aligned in our current times. Like earlier in the keynote section, the keynote speaker was talking about chronic illnesses and how suddenly our lives might change and we may need to, change workplaces and things like that. So I just want to acknowledge that this was part of my sabbatical work too. I was prototyping, like I was exploring, like, one day if I was not a counselor educator, right, where else I could use my skills and, constantly working on our networking and community building. I think that's also very, very important. So Kenan very kindly said, like, he reached out to me, but I also reached out to him as part of my own career exploration and wanting to extend my work to different types of communities. So I think this is something that we should all consider, even if we continue our jobs in educational settings. It's important that we connect our students in community colleges and four-year universities and K-12 schools, learning about these nonprofit organizations and helping them become part of such communities where there are comprehensive programs like legal services that Kenan is highlighting is something very important. Okay, Kenan, thank you again for highlighting those. And I'll just like say maybe a little bit more about the program itself, and then we will take some questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, totally fine. I want to say one thing though about you said like not being studied enough. It's
Yes.
again a two-way street from our part because when the confidentiality is the most important thing for our work. And when people, we have a lot of outreach regarding the studies or surveys, but we are filtering them thoroughly because we know from the clients' attitudes that if they want to keep like a low-key life until they know that they're in safety, they don't want to talk to anyone. They don't want it to be known that they applied for asylum for safety reasons. Or they know that we highlight our clients showing, they're in safety now and so forth. And they explicitly say, please feel free to highlight my story or let me know and I can give interviews and so forth. So the not being studied enough is that portion. It's a little
Yeah.
tricky. When people reach out to us, we don't let our clients know because coming from us, like a request like that, they feel like they have to do it because we ask them. So that's why we refrain from like asking out directly.
Yeah.
So that's one of the issues as well. It's
Yeah.
not just people not wanting to study, it's basically
Sure.
us trying to
Yeah.
look out for safety too. Yeah, sorry
Yeah.
about that. Thank you.
No, that's a wonderful actually behind the scenes insight for us to consider as career professionals, as researchers, educators, because you're right. Like, I mean, that's also a systemic perspective. People in academia doing research, they know it's very difficult to reach this population to collect data, then they avoid sometimes even trying to do this type of research because they have some understanding of what you are saying. But see, if we engage with each other this way, we could be able to brainstorm different ways. Like now that I'm participating in this program, for example, right, I'm able to get a lot of those stories and I'm able to understand the needs from a different way, not doing research, but actively, participating with you all. I'm educating myself, then I'm using that education with my own students, right? And I can think about developing resources without having to do the formal research. Like
Yeah,
us learning together in the field.
and a correction, yes, it was you who reached out to us first. Not the other way around. You were the
Yes,
one, you were
yes.
just like, yeah, I'm sorry if I put it down that
No, no,
way.
no, that's okay. This the
Yeah,
second time you did. The first time, I'm glad that the first time I reached out to you to learn more
yeah.
about this program and I wanted to educate myself. And it did go well in the first year. The second
Oh
year,
yeah, it
you
went
re
really well. Yeah.
the second time you reached out to me and say, "Hey, help us revise this program." Okay,
Yes.
wonderful. So let's say more about this program then. Again, it's the name now is Immigrant Emerging Leadership Program. So they will have multiple cohorts again this year. As you can see, this year there's an English and Spanish cohort like separately. So I'll just highlight a little bit more about this program. So the purpose is to equip underserved immigrant and asylee, LGBTQI plus and transgender, gender diverse individuals based in California with the tools, support, and network to access meaningful work, advocate for themselves and their communities, become visible, powerful leaders in diverse sectors. So this is the overarching goal of this program. And then the structure is the program goes for 10 weeks, the total of 8 hours. Again, English, Spanish tracks. There is a stipend involved. The participants are able to get the stipend when they participate in the program. There's a final project at the end where they do some sort of a portfolio. It could be a job search plan that they design for themselves. It can be an advocacy project. Kenan will highlight later a couple of examples of how people developed their careers and some success stories. So it's a cohort-based learning, but there's also some one-on-one mentorship involved. And those mentors are usually also from the organization and people who are speakers. Like, for example, I was able to connect for one-on-one mentorship with some of the participants last year to talk to them about their own immigration journeys, their career, educational background before as they were searching for new careers here. I was able to get some more. So the core competency areas in the program, it starts with, again, this is a program I want to acknowledge. So Anjali has a lot of information, background expertise, really experience in multiple sectors. So when Kenan and Anjali reached out to me when we sat together to brainstorm the program and revised it, we used all of our collective information expertise in this. So we structured it in a way that it starts with focusing on self-awareness and identity work. So we help the cohort members, like we design activities that explores their cultural narrative and reflect on this narrative, like intersectional identities, like past stories. From there, we help them identify life work values, how those values might be evolving a little bit with the new identities in a new country, the impact of their immigration story. And we really highlight the personal strengths, because a lot of the time the society might treat them as a kind of a victim kind of mindset. So we really want to highlight their survivorship, their strengths, their resilience, and help them see not only the transferable skills, but also the transferable strengths and resilience. The second section is more about career development navigation from that holistic perspective I shared earlier. I do like a workshop where I talk to them about the lifelong comprehensive career development process, how job search is networking, for them to think about their past experiences as not being abandoned, even if they are not able to maybe use their past credentials or, paperwork, things like that. They will still be using their skills, their strengths, and maybe some connections, in this country to choose a new maybe career path and to find new jobs. I help them understand the hidden job market. So we talk about this extensively because there are multiple layers of discrimination barriers already to access, right? The job market. So this hidden job market thing is especially important for this community. They need to advocate much more proactively to reach the people with similar lived experiences, to build a network, which can be very difficult on one hand for somebody who's new, right, in a country. So organizations like Canon organizations, cohort-based models, where they are not just thinking about career planning, job searching alone, but with a group of people. And Canon highlighted those additional events. Those additional social events really also support their active networking, so they can work on this hidden job market, right?
Yes.
So workplace readiness rights is another piece of this. So we talk about navigating imposter syndrome, burnout, microaggressions. Again, like they already have plenty of experiences. Remember social cognitive career theory, right? The learned experiences. Sometimes, unfortunately, the combination of individual factors, the social structural factors coming together, and some of these like very marginalizing past experiences may be causing some low self-efficacy, right? Around thinking about their skills, thinking about their interests. So we help develop some critical consciousness about this, right? It's not what you did. It's not the experiences that you had, like maybe failed job searches or losing their job. It's not individual. It is a result of some social systemic, oppressive factors. Like help them see that and raise that critical consciousness so they can kind of do some rupture repair, right? And really enhance their sense of agency again, self of agency, autonomy, and some hope, infusing some hope, and talk to them about having hope being like action based, right? The small actions that they can take to rebuild that hope and to rebuild the connections and that sense of confidence. Legal rights at work. Again, the interview with John Tesoro that I shared with you highlights about this a lot. In California, we are really lucky. There are still many legal rights in place. There are many ways to advocate, right, for these individuals, for this community, but sometimes they don't know that. Sometimes the language barriers, sometimes the past experiences in the country of origin or what happened when they were crossing a border makes them really intimidated, not feel safe to talk to people, to ask for help, right? To show up even for appointments, sometimes for legal appointments, for a job interview. Sometimes showing up for a job interview can be a very, intimidating, fearful experience for some of these individuals. So really helping them trust these legal rights and working with them to understand them. Another piece of this program is the leadership and advocacy. So they think about the ways in which not only finding a job, but how they can build these leadership skills. So when they go to the workplaces, organizations, they can advocate with and on behalf of the people with similar lived experiences. And toward the end, we do an integration. We really emphasize belonging. Like we put together things like how can you use all of this knowledge to think about a path for yourself, a plan, maybe a project or something like that. And again, as we are doing that, the program is really connecting them with multiple individuals, organizations. That cross-sector partnership is very important as well. So I already highlighted this before. So at the end of the program, Kenan already shared some of this, but these are some important expected outcomes of the program. The most important: increased confidence, well-being, career readiness, and community network strength. So closing message from me, actually from John, that I summarized from the interview. These fellows are not helpless. They have already saved themselves by surviving. We're just a comma in their story. Our job is to see them, hear them, and help build a path where they can rise. So John highlighted, like, sometimes us as more like technical workers, legal advocates, we don't have the time to really do that empathic support, right? The system to provide them. Like, they have multiple legal cases and they prepare them to be tough, strong, as they are fighting for their rights, right? For their immigration status and things like that. So John was highlighting how important our work is as career development professionals to understand their story more in depth and provide that emotional support and really highlight their survivorship, their strengths, to help them persevere in this path, again, which can be very intimidating, very scary for some of them. So what I will do, I will stop sharing at this point, and then we will get some questions with Kenan. But Kenan, before we do that, do you want to highlight just maybe one or two success stories, like how this
Of course.
program supported some people?
Yeah, with pleasure. As Elif said, we used to do this in English only, but this year we started doing it in Spanish as well. And that's through a grant that we received from the LGBT Caucus of California State. And thanks to Angeli's work. Angeli is the founder of Parivar Bay Area, and she is the co-founder of these cohorts, and she's our board chair. And thanks to her work, now the cohorts are statewide. It used to be Bay Area only, but we now have students from Los Angeles and San Diego and other parts of California as well, especially in this cohort. And our coverage is different in terms of the asylum work and the cohorts. Cohorts is statewide, but for the asylum jurisdiction office, it's like much bigger. It covers Oregon and Washington State and also Alaska. They're all handled in the San Francisco asylum office here. And the success stories are, from our first cohorts, someone started their own nonprofit, someone started a gym specifically for trans individual needs. It was perfect, both for trans men and trans women. And there was, from our latest cohort, there was a musician who ended up doing the finishing project as a song, and then they did one song for finishing project, and they did a single that they broadcast on Spotify. So those are, yeah, exactly. And as our work, we are, especially the legal team, because of the mental needs, because we're dealing with a lot of vicarious trauma, we get regular training in how to deal with vicarious trauma and how to de-escalate situations, because there are times that the clients, especially including the cohorts, that they are not able to connect. They don't know how much they want to share because they don't know if they will be seen, if they will be heard, or if it's going to make any difference in our approach. So we are getting regular trainings in managing situations as such, and basically making sure that we are also safe so that we can keep helping people in a sustainable manner. So thank you so much, Elif. Thank you so much for having us and highlighting our work.
Thank
And
you.
I'm so happy to know you. I'm so happy to have you as a friend. And we are, I think, now open to questions.
Yes, and my bad for my, I coded as like we have another 15 full hour. My apologies, Shelby. So Shelby will just go ahead with maybe just one question for now. But if it's okay, Shelby, I'm happy to stay for more questions, a little bit extra here. If you are able to make me the host or us the host, I understand if you need to go.
Yeah, no worries. I just wanted to share our scheduled session is from 10 to 10:50, so we have 3 minutes left. But there's a break. There's a 10-minute break between the next session. So if folks want to stick around and spend their break with the wisdom of our two panelists here, absolutely, our two presenters. But there were two questions that came in. One is about, it's pretty easy to answer maybe through research. So that one, maybe we can put some stuff in the chat. It's, are there similar orgs serving other regions of the US? So that one, I'll let y'all answer in the chat or with resources, but there was also one that was a little bit more nuanced and complex, so I'm just going to read that. One of our participants said, "My ancestors arrived on our shores 1600s, 1700s. I can only imagine that it would be difficult to feel welcome in these not so, quote, united states here in 2025. What is your perspective on how current political/legislative conditions affect your ability to feel welcome? I experience sadness and anger just asking the question." So this is more of a kind of personal experience. And then if you have time to share about the orgs as well. Thank you both.
Thank you so much. Is that okay if I go ahead, Elif?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay, so yes, there are other nonprofits that also there are others in Bay Area as well, but we have our differences, and that's why we have a referral service or referral network with them. The United Statewide, it is immigration equality. And what they do is it's a network database, and they have a database of attorneys who do pro bono work for immigration or asylum applications. And they connect people who are reaching out in need of help in accordance with where they are located. Let's say a person reaches out from Chicago. They get in touch with the attorneys in Chicago and then connect them in terms of like who's available. And in Bay Area, we do have the Oasis Legal Services. We are in collaboration with Oasis Legal Services. Our difference is we only do asylum. They do all of the immigration relief. So they apply for green cards, they do naturalization applications, and they're on sliding scale. So they do pro bono, low bono. And when we have an asylee, an asylum seeker who has his or their approval, we connect them for their green card application with Oasis Legal Services. And our approach is different as well because but it's similar at the same time. That's why I'm mentioning this, because we do have the referral services or the cohorts for the resettlement program. They have social services, especially on social needs that the clients have. So we are both supporting our clients in the means that they need in their resettlement over in the USA. And currently, the political climate, this is something that we are getting everywhere, that the media, yes, it is dangerous. Yes, it's very concerning right now. However, the media, what is put out there, please don't forget that some of them are clickbait. So they like creating a chaotic environment so that people get worried, and it is clickbait so that you click on it and then you read it. And there are changes. They're trying to slow down the asylum applications or the asylum process. Currently, the wait time is up to 5 years. It was supposed to be 6 months. However, this is a reminder that, you know, as many as people who are against this, there are more who are supporting it. So please don't forget that. So it is something that makes us happy.
Yeah, I also really want to acknowledge that question. I mean, I can only imagine. I want to acknowledge that I'm an ally, so I can't really relate to the experience of somebody like being a trans individual, right, crossing the border or applying for asylum, and you know how much more scary, intimidating, terrifying it must be at this point, unfortunately, in the current climate. So I just want to really acknowledge that immigration journeys are already very dangerous, already very sad, a lot of grief, loss, and fear, and anger, and all of that in this current climate. These people are sacrificing a lot, right? Like it's not just you're not leaving behind all the dangerous things and the sad things. Like you're also leaving behind your loved ones, right? You are giving up on another possibility of life, no matter how dangerous or, you know, how risky it must be. So coming into a new country, like you have these high hopes and you make these sacrifices, and now we are going through after all these sacrifices, it's really devastating. I just want to really acknowledge that. And at the same time, as Kenan is saying, I think that's why in our work, we really need to take the time. Sometimes an attorney may not, as John was saying, an attorney may not have the time to do that empathic validation and acknowledging, right, those strong emotions and talking about like not being welcomed and problems of belonging and all of that. But us as career development professionals, no matter our backgrounds, our counseling, advising, education, I think we should really take the time to listen to each unique story and really make room for people's feelings in this current climate. And no matter our political opinion standpoint is also, I think we should also really get help, support to do some broaching. Like broaching is usually like it means that we acknowledge our own privileged identities and how there might be cultural differences and similarities, and that we will not understand everything the people that we serve bring up, but we should be open, right? We should really keep our own biases, assumptions in check, our own political opinions in check, and understand these unique lived experiences and multiple intersectional marginalized identities and how these affect one's ability, as this person is saying, like feel welcomed, feel unsafe, right? Like maybe hopeless about their current condition. So let's acknowledge them. Let's learn how to acknowledge them in any meeting. And at the same time, let's learn how to be strengths-based, how to infuse hope. As Kenan is highlighting, there are also a lot of people, organizations in this country defending like all types of human rights and trying to protect democracy and all types of rights. Let's also highlight those, again, without diminishing, dismissing the difficult emotions and the situations. And let's come together as people from different sectors, from different areas, to create that hope together, to really support each other, advocate with each other and on behalf of each other. That's really, unfortunately, all I can say right now. And I hope this presentation serves as an example to how we can come together to create that hope. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Again, the recording with the other legal attorney like from this organization will be available for you. The slides will be available for you. I believe there's also a transcription to this presentation. And I will also leave my email here quickly. So if you have any more questions that we could not attend to today, you can please reach out to me, and I'm happy to also share more details about the program if you send me an email. Thank you so much for being
Yes.
here, and thank you, Kenan, for all
Thank
the
you
work
so
that you're
much.
doing, and thank you for coming here and sharing your work with us.
Thank you so much. We're located in Castro, by the way, in San Francisco. If you want to pay a visit in the office, our doors are open for all of you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.